policy blueprints and lessons for the future, giving us an opportunity to reflect on our policy journey, the transformative successes, lessons learned, and bold ideas to inspire a new dawn of progress.
And so, distinguished guests, we'll start off by taking a few recognitions. Everyone here is actually a VIP, but we want to specially appreciate. Let me actually, with some bias, start off with distinguished Senator Musa Sani. Please, can we put our hands together for him? May I also specially appreciate and welcome the President, and I am doing this with bias, the President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Mr. Innocent C. Ohagwa, FCTI. Please put your hands together for him.
Would also like to warmly welcome Dr. Zach Adedeji, the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. A round of applause for him.
May I especially appreciate one woman whose name rings bells. Everything she touches turns to gold. The Special Advisor to the President on Policy Coordination, Madam Hadiza Bala Usman. Please put your hands together for her. We also specially appreciate the IMF resident representative for Nigeria, the Christian. Please put your hands together. Thank you very much. And the entire IMF here. We also want to specially appreciate and welcome the Controller General of the National Customs Service, who is the king of PR. We've seen him rise, and at the top is doing the best anyone in that position. May I especially welcome Bashir Adewale Adeni, MFR. You're welcome, sir.
Would also like to welcome Dr. Taiwo, who is the CEO, Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Welcome, sir.
Permit me to specially welcome the President and Chairman of Council, Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, who is here with his amiable wife, Dr. Ike Neleaku, FNIPR. You're welcome, sir. We have also with us the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, Engineer Jennifer Adihije. You're welcome. Also with us here is one who takes anti-corruption, he sleeps it, he walks it. He's the former chairman of the ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasanoye, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Please put your hands together for him. Also with us here is the coordinating directors for FIRS. We want to appreciate all of you for coming here. Thank you very much. We have also with us Chairman Energy Institute of Nigeria, Austin Olushola. You're welcome.
We also have here Malam Haruna Yahaya, who is the President of ICANN.
We have the representative of the President of the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, Mr. Adewale, who is represented here by his deputy, Adewale, I think is, that's not very clear. It looks like Arabic, but I'll confirm and correct it. But thank you very much. Nigeria Employers Consultative Association represented here. Thank you.
Dr. Ra would also like to recognize Dr. Rabiu Olowo, Chairman, Financial Reporting Council. A round of applause for him, please.
With us here also is the CEO, Right Source Professionals, Mr. Ademola Adedeji. You're welcome.
May we all rise for the national anthem, please. Technical crew. Technical crew, are you ready?
The saxophonist, are you singing the national anthem? Are you playing or we're singing?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we have the screens on for... Would also like to recognize the presence of the Special Advisor to the President on Energy, Mrs. Olu Verhengen. A round of applause for her, please.
May I also specially appreciate the Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NITI, Mr. Orji Ogbonnaya Orji, PhD. Please put your hands together for him. Your Excellencies, representatives of both the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representative of the Right Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, representative of the Chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum and other governors represented here, distinguished Senator and other senators and honorable members here present, honorable ministers represented here today, ambassadors and members of the diplomatic corps, special advisors to the president here present. May I especially appreciate the executive chairman, the FIRS, and other heads of government agencies here present. I especially also the Controller General of the Customs Service. Ladies and gentlemen, leaders of the organized private sector, labor unions and the civil society and our industry leaders, friends, associates and family members of the celebrant, distinguished participants, well-wishers, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome. Traditionally, this will have been a simple party outside. But may I use this opportunity to welcome us to this very special policy lecture. A moment intimate celebration where nation building shares the stage with birthday cake. Today we gather not just to honor a man, but to celebrate a mission, one that has turned 50 years of personal excellence into a launch for national transformation. Mr. Taiwo, celebrant of the hour, not just simply adding another candle to his cake. He's lighting the path prosperous Nigeria. As chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, he has taken the monumental task of fixing the pipes through which our nation's wealth should flow. In a landscape often cluttered with leaks and loopholes, he has also become the plumber-in-chief of fiscal governance, sealing inefficiencies, untangling complexities, and laying down new frameworks for a stronger economic future. Under his watch, the conversation shifted from tax burdens to tax balance, from revenue chasing to revenue transformation, from policies on paper to reforms with impact. He has not only asked the hard questions, but he has also answered them with boldness, with clarity, with a vision anchored upon ability. And today, ladies and gentlemen, instead of a champagne toast or a flashy gala, he has chosen to host the national dialogue that speaks volumes. He has continued to show his understanding that the gift of turning 50 is about silver and gold, but it's more about it is a legacy. And what better way to honor than by inviting us all here to imagine, to discuss, and to shape both prosperous future. So let us, distinguished guests, be set. This will be the best as we raise our glasses and engage in a discussion worthy of the man, the milestone, and the mission. And so, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask that we especially appreciate this man and his wife. Please put your hands together for them. May we also specially welcome the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara. You're welcome, sir. We have also the National Coordinator, Safe School Initiative, the Ministry of Finance, Ms. Halima Ilya. You're welcome.
We also have the lead economist, World Bank Nigeria, Dr. Alex Sienot, and other World Bank staff present here. A round of applause, please. We have Mr. Abubakar Suleiman, the Managing Director, Sterling Bank PLC. A round of applause for him.
We have also the Acting Chairman of FCT IRS, Mr. Michael Angu. Please put your hands together for him.
Technical crew, thank you. Martin Luther King once said, "We have a responsibility to seek to make our nation a better nation in which we live." Our policy heroes would be on display. Absolutely, thank you. We have here Obafemi Awolowo, who was a key Nigerian nationalist, statesman, and advocate of federalism. A premier of the Western region, he introduced free primary education, free health care for children, and developed infrastructure and industry. He promoted regional economic growth using cocoa revenue and was a strong voice for social justice and democracy. We also have Nnamdi Benjamin Azikiwe. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, popularly known as Zik of Africa, was a key figure in Nigeria's struggle for independence and the country's first president between 1963 to 1966. A nationalist, a journalist, and politician, he used his newspaper, the West African Pilot, to promote unity and nationalism. We have Ahmadu Bello. Sir Ahmadu Bello was the premier of northern Nigeria from 1954 until his assassination in 1966. He was a prominent political leader and the Sardauna of Sokoto, holding both religious and political influence. He focused on developing education, agriculture, and infrastructure in the north and promoted unity amongst Nigeria's diverse ethnic and religious groups. We have Gani Fawemi. Chief Gani Fawemi was a renowned Nigerian human rights lawyer, activist, and social critic. He dedicated his life to fighting injustice, corruption, and military oppression. Known as a senior advocate of the masses, Gani provided free legal services to the poor and used the courts to challenge abuse of power. We have Jaja Wachukwu. Jaja Wachukwu was a prominent Nigerian statesman, lawyer, and diplomat. He was Nigeria's first Speaker of the House of Representatives, first Ambassador to the United Nations, and first Minister of Foreign Affairs. He played a key role in Nigeria's admission to the UN and helped save Nelson Mandela from a death sentence during the Rivona trial. We also have Aminu Kano, who was a prominent Nigerian politician, teacher, and social reformer, known for championing the rights of the Talakawa, common people. He founded the Northern Elements Progressive Union, NIPU, and later the People's Redemption Party to fight for social justice, democracy, and education. We have Herbert Macaulay. Herbert Macaulay was a pioneering Nigerian nationalist, civil engineer, and journalist. He is widely recognized as the father of Nigerian nationalism. Macaulay founded the Nigerian National Democratic Party in 1923, the first political party in Nigeria. Through his speeches and writings, he strongly opposed British colonial rule and fought for the rights of Nigerians. We have MKO Abiola, who was a wealthy Nigerian businessman, philanthropist, and politician. He is known for winning the 1993 presidential election, which was widely considered Nigeria's freest and fairest, but was later annulled by the military government. Abiola became a symbol of democracy and the struggle for civilian rule. He was imprisoned for declaring himself president and died under controversial circumstances in detention in 1998. Fumilayo Ransome Kuti. Fumilayo Ransome Kuti was a pioneering Nigerian women's rights activist and political leader. She fought for women's suffrage, education, and social justice during colonial times. As one of the first Nigerian women to drive a car, she challenged traditional norms and led protests against unfair taxation. She was also the mother of famous musician Fela Kuti. We have Margaret Ekpo, who was a Nigerian women's rights activist and political leader, known for her fight against colonial rule and for women's participation in politics. She played a key role in mobilizing women in eastern Nigeria, championing social justice, and helped promote education and economic empowerment for women. We have Hajia Sawaba. Hajia Sawaba was a fearless Nigerian women's rights activist and politician. She fought against child marriage, forced labor, and for women's education and voting rights in northern Nigeria. Despite being jailed 16 times and harshly treated, she remained committed to social justice. Sawaba is remembered as a courageous pioneer for inclusion and women's empowerment. We also have our delectable Dora Akunyili, who was a respected Nigerian pharmacist and public servant known for leading the fight against counterfeit drugs as Director General of NAFDAC. She significantly improved drug safety in Nigeria and later served as Minister of Information. Her work earned her many awards and lasting respect for her dedication to public health and good governance. We have Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa was Nigeria's first and only prime minister, serving from 1957 until his assassination in 1966. Born in Bauchi, he was a teacher before venturing into politics. A key figure in Nigeria's independence, he co-founded the Nigerian People's Congress and became prime minister in 1960. Balewa promoted African unity, opposed apartheid, and focused on national development. We have Samuel Ajayi Crowther, who was a linguist, Christian missionary, and the first African Anglican bishop, captured as a boy and sold into slavery. He was rescued and taken to Sierra Leone, where he converted to Christianity. He became a key figure in African Christianity and translated the Bible and other religious texts in Yoruba. Crowder also compiled the first Yoruba dictionary and contributed to linguistics work. That's all. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that's all. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have been educated or re-educated. At this point, we would like to welcome a technocrat. Apologies, we'll take a couple recognitions first.
Very much, ma'am. Thank you. When you have a commissioner for finance representing the governor, you know she can do what the governor will have done. Please clap for her especially. A young man had met me once that he wanted to start a business and he needed a loan. So I asked him, I said, what kind of loan do you want? He told me the amount. I said, what kind of bank do you need? He said, sir, I need a bank that will give me a loan and leave me alone. I said, there's no such bank. So distinguished guests laid gold in his voice and platinum in his character. Today, he does not only serve as a government, he also audits a generation's hope. He tallies growth against justice, tax against equity, and policy against posterity. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our keynote speaker for today, our own host for today. If you know him, you know him. Chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele.
Please have your seats. Good morning, Your Excellencies, here present and represented, distinguished guests, policymakers, professionals, academics, industry leaders, friends, well-wishers, and family members. Thank you very much for honoring me today. May you be honored in a very special way. Today is a day of celebration, but it is also a day of reflection and renewed commitment. I'm honored and humbled to stand before you, not just to mark another year in my journey, but to share ideas about the future of our country that demands courage, creativity, and conviction from all of us. Each birthday reminds us that time moves forward, but progress is never automatic. Progress is a choice. Looking back, the blueprint of progress has always been written by those willing to think differently, act boldly, and serve a cause greater than themselves. As I woke up this morning, turning 50, I did not feel any different. So I'm reminded again that life is not about what happens to us, but what we make possible. Let me share with you some of the key findings from our tax reform journey so far, which is the reason that informed my decision to do a policy lecture for my birthday. And many people are saying, who does lectures on their birthday? It is true, at least according to Benjamin Franklin, that in this world, only two things are certain: death and taxes. Nobody will debate whether we will die, because we will. But many people argue whether they need to pay taxes. Ultimately, let me tell you for a fact, we will all pay taxes. We can choose to do it in an orderly manner by paying those taxes to the government, or in a chaotic manner, such as when government decides to print money to spend, as was the case under the past administration, resulting in high inflation and erosion of purchasing power. When we print naira to spend, the 1 naira you have in your accounts, your wallets, will reduce proportionately, good as government taking a fraction of your money from you. Also, when the tax system doesn't work, we often pay more costly implicit taxes when we have to take on the role of government. Unfortunately, these chaotic taxes disproportionately impact the poor and vulnerable, thereby worsening inequality. It is therefore in our enlightened self-interest to ensure that the tax system works in an orderly manner. Our tax system suffers from archaic laws and a complex administrative structure. There is trust deficit even between and among governments. Low tax morale and widespread evasion, resulting in a very low tax to GDP ratio, one of the lowest in the world for many years. Businesses, large and small, are overburdened with multiplicity of taxes. There is poor accountability for taxes collected and how they are utilized, and there is weak fiscal exchange as taxpayers often see little or no benefit. There was a general lack of policy coordination and overlapping roles and nuisance taxes embedded even in the Constitution. Tax is no longer just about the social contract, as we were told. What we found out from our work is that it's bigger than that. Tax is a socio-economic contract, which holds that taxes are the economic consequences, that taxes are the consequences of economic activities, and therefore government policies, including taxation, must not distort legitimate economic activities. And that when taxes are collected, they are a means to an end, not an end in themselves, in that they are used for the well-being of the people. Therefore, tax policies and other government policies must not undermine the well-being of the people. That is the socio-economic contract. Government policies, beyond generating revenue, tax reform can help us address some of our most pressing national challenges. Imagine a tax system that is intelligent, with a robust beneficial ownership law, unexplained wealth order, assets and liability declaration that is robust, conflict of interest reporting and declaration, and ensuring that doing business with government makes sense in terms of the rules, from procurement to contracting, to how we pay contractors, to imposition of regulatory fees, using technology to develop e-governance. We will greatly reduce corruption and therefore improve our society. In the United States of America, for example, it is required that if you steal anything, you must declare it in your tax returns as stolen assets. Of course, many people will not disclose it, But at least we have one more offense to count against you when we find out. Misinformation and lack of understanding were rampant as we were doing the work. Some analysts and even tax professionals did not understand the difference between zero-rated and VAT exempt. And they said, this government is confused. Why did they turn it from exempt to zero-rated? Labor union opposed the tax bills that will benefit workers the most. But at the end of the day, perspectives matter. We see things differently. When I told some people about my 50th birthday, if you said, you have just turned 50, it means you are my aburo. That means they're saying I'm younger than they are. Why some said, I'm their egbon, so you are already 50. It is like someone saying to you that you're tall, and another person says you're short. It doesn't mean that you are tall and short at the same time. It could be that you are taller than the person that says you are tall, and shorter than the one that says you're short. It's a question of perspective. So, what are the major tax reform measures introduced in these reforms? The tax reform focused, and this is very important, many people get it wrong. They think that we're trying to generate more revenue. No, that wasn't the instruction Mr. President gave us. He says, reform the system, make it simple, people focus, growth focus, and competitive. And you know what? When you do those, the revenue will come naturally. We do not place the cart before the horse. Some of the key changes include full income tax exemption for over 1/3 of all workers in the private and public sector, higher exemption threshold for small businesses, now set at 100 million naira per annum, changes to make essential consumptions like food, education, health more affordable by zero rating them for VAT purposes, reduction in the cost of doing business for businesses because they can now claim input credit on their assets and services, simplifying and rationalizing taxes so there are not too many, addressing distortions created by the various incentive regime that we have and lack of clarity, and providing a level playing field. We have priority sector incentives, boosting exports, and providing tax relief to prevent double taxation for Nigerian businesses operating internationally. Others are changes to income tax laws to attract remote work opportunities, enabling Nigerian youths to thrive in the digital economy. Introduction of the tax ombudsman to protect the vulnerable taxpayers. Attractive tax regime to encourage formalization of businesses. We have large informal sector. Our current system discourages formalization. These reforms will change that. Faster tax refunds and lower withholding tax rate and some complete exemption in some cases to reduce the cost of working capital for businesses. These reforms will make tax evasion more costly while simplifying compliance. There will be improved accountability and reporting, more revenue and fairer treatment to sub-national, also in the reforms. So let me tell you quickly about the lessons I have learned personally and also for the rest of my team from this journey so far. This journey has reminded me that boldness is not the absence of fear, but prioritizing vision over comfort. Hope or faith is not enough, and they're not strategies. Intent must be matched by crafts. Policies are not what we say, but what we actually do. So it's not enough to write down the policy, we must implement with sincerity. Because it's a Democracy Day period, I need to talk to you about how that links to policy. Our democracy must offer economic choices, not just political freedom. But unlike politics, policy requires credible data over rhetorics or sentiments. Popular views do not always lead to sound policies. Imagine if we have everyone at the table because we want to be inclusive, but lack credible data. We're holding a communion, not designing policy. It's also important for us to be humble, recognizing that we do not know all, and that the more that we can get, the better the final outcome. Humility is important. But the good news is that it comes naturally. You only need to be yourself. On the contrary, it takes some intentionality and mental energy to be arrogant, because no one was born raising their shoulders. Being calm also enhances your credibility. Overall, whether it is tax or fiscal reforms, strengthening public institutions, expanding opportunity, or fostering innovation, one truth remains: great outcomes require intentionality in design and sincerity of purpose in execution. So that leads me to the next subject about what should the blueprint for tomorrow look like. Our aspirations must become actionable steps and must be institutionalized as systems that ultimately serve the people. As we look ahead, what should our blueprint for transformative action look like? I have some ideas. First, we must prioritize inclusion and national interest over sectional or self-interest. This was a major issue we had to deal with and continue to contend with. Policies must be people-centric, not just statistics, and must be inclusive to incorporate various perspectives, ensuring that every voice is heard and every key stakeholder is included. Contending with the interests of groups and agencies shouldn't feel like an economic civil war, where in some cases, some deploy even government resources to fight the reform of government that is meant to benefit all. Second, we must use credible data for policy, and I said this earlier on, but it's so important. One major shortcoming of democracy is that majority decides outcomes, which do not necessarily work when it comes to making sound policies. Just imagine that we decide as a country that we will ask Nigerians whether they would like to pay taxes, and we will implement the outcome. I'm sure you know what the answer will be. And that answer will mean that we no longer have a country. So, in policy formulation, credible data and evidence should be prioritized over popular views. The biggest test for our democracy should be when people and businesses choose to live, work, and invest in our country, even when they have the option to do so elsewhere. Third, we must invest in people to build capacity and visionary leadership. No nation or institution can rise higher than the people who drive it. Education, innovation, health, and creativity are not luxuries. They are the foundation and building blocks for sustained progress. As I round off, let me share with you the call to action that I have. Dear policymakers, colleagues, distinguished gentlemen and ladies, and friends, we must remember that boldness is a renewable resource. The courage that transforms societies must be nurtured every day in what we say, how we think, act, and lead. Nations are made by the policies that they make. And not having a policy is in fact a policy itself, except that it's chaotic. It means we rule by discretion and we create uncertainties. To the elites, and I know I belong to that group, we must apply more intellectual rigor in policy debates, challenge long-held theoretical beliefs, question assumptions within context. We must avoid crowd-pleasing analysis because after the applause, the pain will remain. The government should focus on doing only what the private sector will not do and collect the least amount of tax in doing so without compromising the required minimum quality standard. The government should be intentional regarding non-inflationary spending, priority, and quality of spending. After all, that is the essence of the socioeconomic contracts. The people must seek first to understand, because ignorance compounds vulnerability and steals opportunities. We must think independently, ask questions, engage, and most importantly, criticize constructively with the sole aim to build, not to tear apart our nation. To paraphrase Nelson Mandela, wishing that your government fails or thinking ill of your country is like taking poison and then hoping that it will magically kill your enemies. The reforms being introduced are not done. We still have unfinished business. We need to lower corporate tax rates further on corporates to attract more investment and stimulate expansion of businesses. Think about it. With the high inflation, a high tax rate will invariably be taxing capital, not profit. It will be paper profit, but it will be capital you are taxing. We must address regulatory overreach, embrace digitalization, particularly in government services, refine our tariff system to reduce the rates on raw materials and intermediate products, which currently are twice the average for sub-Saharan Africa. We make input costs too high. Addressing our tariffs and regulatory hurdles is the equivalent of granting waiver from all income and consumption taxes. So this is a low-hanging fruit. We also need fiscal reforms to complement a strong and stable naira, such as payment of taxes in naira by Nigerian businesses who do not generate dollars. Despite having a comparable trade balance over the past 10 years as Kenya and South Africa, the Nigerian naira has lost 6 times more value than either the South African rand or the Kenya shillings. This underscored the need for the fiscal, monetary, and other policies to work together for us to have a strong and stable naira. I'll close with gratitude and final words. My profound appreciation goes to Mr. President for the opportunity given to me to serve our dear nation along with my team members. And I have to put on record, Mr. President understands the reforms. Mr. President did not, up to this moment, dictate anything to our committee. Everything we proposed was a result of our debates, not perfect, but we were not influenced in any way. So, and I think we should appreciate Mr. President for that. I would also like to appreciate the Honorable Finance Minister and CMA, and my dear brother and friend in this mission, Dr. Zach Adedeji. I'd like to appreciate their excellencies, the governors, for their support, honorable ministers, our distinguished senators and honorable members, all members of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, our secretarial staff, and volunteers, including tax club students from 22 universities across Nigeria. And to the patriotic Nigerians who spent their hard-earned money. A Nigerian came to us and spent 15 million naira of his personal money After we explained the reform to him, he couldn't understand why anybody was fighting them. He said, I'll help you translate to Yoruba, Pidgin, English, and Igbo. He did the interview and spent his money to do all those, 15 million naira, without asking for anything. And for those that did not have money, but they applied other resources, including their time, to help us promote the reforms, we are grateful. To everyone who supported or opposed the reforms, your questions and critics made us better. The roles you played, the ideas, questions, collaboration, and guidance have enriched my path personally more than I could have imagined or ever hoped for. Words are insufficient to express my gratitude. Finally, today is not just about celebrating what has been. It is also about affirming what lies ahead. Let us move forward with boldness, wisdom, and hope. Rather than wait for the future, let's go out there and build it. Thank you very much for paying attention to me, and may God bless Nigeria. God bless you all.
Please, let's make it louder. Let's clap some more for him, please. Thank you. Now you see why it is better to hold a lecture on your birthday. Someone had said, if you do good, you pay something to government. If you do bad, you pay something to government. And I said, how? It was his definition of the difference between tax and fine. He said a tax is a fine for doing fine, and a fine is a tax for doing wrong. So either way, you pay something. May I especially welcome the Director General and Chief Executive Officer, the Chief IT Officer of Nigeria, Kashifu Inua Abdullahi, CCIE. Please put your hands together for him. It's not easy to do IT these days, especially these days of AI. I was trying to open an email the other day, and the AI was asking me to confirm if I'm a human being. And I said, you confirm first if you are real. I also want to specially welcome the Registrar and CEO of Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria, Cobon, Builder Adetunji Adeniro MNI. Please put your hands together for him. He's here with his team. Thank you very much for the honor. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we move quickly into the panel, I want to especially appreciate the man who taught me English in University of Abuja. He's at the back. He said I shouldn't call his name. But only 2 weeks ago, we were at a conference where we were choosing which English language to select for Nigeria. And we're trying to pick, should we take the American English or should we pick the British English? We have also with us, we have all right, thank you very much. So, while at that conference, we're trying to pick, like we are here today, for which English should pick for Nigeria. And it was difficult to pick between the British English and the American English. Because in Britain, they will say extreme. In America, they will say end. But here we'll say extreme end. In Britain, they will say knicker. In America, they will say short, but here we'll say short knicker. In Britain, they will say salon. In America, they will say barber shop, but here we'll say barbing salon. In Britain, they will say bend. In America, they will say corner, but here we'll say bending corner. In Britain, they will say so. In America, they will say therefore, but here we'll say In Britain, they will say still. In America, they will say yet. But here we'll say still. In Britain, they'll say should. In America, they'll say in case. But here we'll say. In Britain, they'll say henceforth. In America, they'll say from now on. But here we'll say from now. In Britain, they'll say reverse. In America, they'll say turn back. But here we'll say reverse. In Britain, they'll say, tell me the reason. In America, they'll say, tell me why. But here we'll say, please put your hands together for yourselves. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, if you picture a media watchdog with sharp eyes and unmoved perched on the edge of power, she is a sentinel monitoring economic tides with the precision of a trained scientist and the poise of a screen goddess. And that's the person I'm about to introduce. At some point, she went to school. Her early education traced her of diligence and vision, culminating in a BSc in parasitology and etymology from Nnamdi Azikiwe University. She started with parasites under the microscope. Now she dissects policies with a microphone and on the screen. Her tools have evolved. Once lab slides and field work, now broadcast cameras, economic charts, and policy white papers. But her analytical lenses never dulled. Today she wields the scientific discipline like a scalpel, cutting through noise in the role as journalist, presenter, and financial watchdog. She is the commanding voice behind the Money Show on AIT, with the poise of a panel queen and the instinct of a born interviewer. She has grilled titans of African economic leadership, including titans like Donald Kabuleka, John Kufuor, Adam Soshomole, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, among others. Each episode is a surgical dive into economic, diplomacy, and development, her domain. She is not just a broadcaster, she's a media mogul. As channel manager of Africa Business Channel on DARSAT and CEO of Africa Economic Congress, she monitors fiscal narratives and policy movements. She's across the continents and shaping them just as much as she reports them. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to welcome the multi-layered persona, part scientist, part sentinel, part screen goddess, a master interviewer with velvet voice, a moderator of powerful panels, steering conversations which shape Africa's economic future. And to crown it all, she holds the chieftaincy title of Adan Nekoli Uwa, bestowed by the Obi Jidewa, king of Isili. Please put your hands together as I welcome Nancy Nnaji. Please clap for her some more.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, good morning. Let's just allow them do this quickly. We are all here for Mr. Taiwo Oyedele's 50th, and just before I introduce our panelists, thank you very much, Mr. Oyedele, for the lecture, for that deeply insightful and thought-provoking lecture. Of course, it has sparked the right questions and setting the stage perfectly for what is next, for what we'll be doing in the next few minutes. Listening to your lecture earlier, the lecture, of course, reminded us that, in fact, as I was seated there, it reminded me that tax and fiscal reforms are not just technical adjustments, they are levers of transformation. You mentioned that boldness is not the absence of fear. Policy must not be the most popular. And I felt a bit, I wouldn't say perhaps, I felt a bit attacked as a journalist, you know. Because when any policy comes out, for us as journalists, we try as much as possible to bring different people on air. They criticize. You are also torn between, is the most popular voice the right voice? You also mentioned strengthening public systems, requiring boldness, intentionality. Policy must be people-centric, credible data must be used for public policy. But most importantly, visionary leadership, as no nation rises without the people who drive it. From your lecture, we've seen where the gaps lie. We've unpacked the lessons from what you've said. And now the real challenge is not how we turn, how we turn like a deaf ear, but how we turn insights into impact. So now that the stage is set, we are shifting gears into this high-level conversation themed bold policies for prosperous future, pitfalls, lessons, and prospects. And I'm delighted to drive this panel session. Like the MC had mentioned, I am Nancy Naji, the executive producer and anchor of Moneyline with Nancy on AIT. So this next session is about the bold moves. It's about the strategic pivots, clinical execution, most importantly, and leadership to push reforms beyond paperwork into real and measurable progress. And each of the panelists I will be introducing shortly here brings a distinct lens, I must say, of how policy can be a catalyst for industries, institutions, and society. So let me just get right in. Our first distinguished panelist is at the heart of Nigeria's trade and investment reform efforts. She brings a policy lens into productivity and competitiveness. Please welcome Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, MFR, our Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. Please, a round of applause for her. Thank you. Our next panelist, when she came into the room this morning, I was just looking at her, and it got me thinking that coordinating bold reforms across government is not easy, but it's essential, especially when bold ideas risk dying in committee rooms. She's responsible for connecting the dots, driving deadlines, and making policy happen. Please welcome our next panelist to help us unpack what boldness in implementation really demands. Ms. Hadiza Bala Usman, Special Advisor to the President on Policy and Coordination. Please make it louder. Our next panelist will be offering external insights on internal economic realities. I must prepare your minds that he will bring tough love to this panel, but trusted data, context, and clarity also to this panel. Please help me welcome Dr. Christian Ebeke, IMF resident representative in Nigeria. Please, another round of applause for him. Our final panelist for today is bridging government, business, and civil society, I must say. Private sector, I call him a private sector policy whisperer. He's helping push policy beyond conversation. Please welcome Dr. Taiwo Adeloju, CEO, Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG. And I'm seeing him differently today. I was chatting with him earlier. I said, I'm seeing you on a suit today. What's happening with a golden tie? You're honoring Mr. Oyedele. Please welcome him to the panel. All right, I think we'll delve right in. And my first question will be to all of you. And I'll start with the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. And I would appreciate that we do this very quickly. So 2 minutes answers. What is one bold move, policy bold move of this administration? What was done well and what could have been done better? So Minister, over to you.
One bold move, I think charity begins at home. But first of all, I know you said 2 seconds, but happy birthday, Taiwo. I couldn't make it here in time for the Goodwill message, so please let me just say to everyone publicly, Taiwo has been a leading supporter since my days at the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. From his PwC days, we actually started with a big fight of his rating Nigeria negatively on tax reforms. But he didn't stop there with just negative commentary. He became an avid supporter to fix those reforms, and over the years, we've worked very closely together for about a decade. So I just wanted to publicly commend and recommend and recognize that effort. And we know that the best is yet to come. So thank you, Taiwo. Now, what has the administration done well? Well, I would start with being responsive and not reactive. And I would go straight to trade policy, taking a deliberate position on accelerating and diversifying the economy through non-oil exports, and specifically leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Area. That policy, or that agreement, making it the mainstay of our trade policy, has seen a 24% increase in non-oil exports year on year for Nigeria, and has shown incredible potential for our non-oil exporters, in particular across the continent. So that is going well. What has the administration not done well, or what can we do better? Let me stay with the same theme. Coordination of the AFCFTA ecosystem, a lot had been happening. And so in terms of coming together with a synergy, that could have been done better. And immediately we started doing that better. I'm glad the CG of Customs is here, many other stakeholders. People were doing important work in a bit of silos, and so we have the Central Coordination Committee for AFCFTA implementation. I'll just stay with that one example. What was the last thing? Okay, excellent, thank you.
I would also start with happy birthday, Taiwo. We're very proud of you. I'm part of a cohort with Taiwo, Nigerian Leaders Initiative, from 2006, I think, and I'm so proud to see the journey, and I'm so proud of the work you've done. Happy birthday. Regarding the question on the policy that I think the government has done well, is the Nigeria First policy. That is a long time incoming policy, which recognizes that Nigeria needs to own and spend things for itself. Nigeria needs to prioritize what it produces, and in that way we can expand our manufacturing sector, we can expand and self-promote ourselves. One of the things that I felt was not done in the right way regarding the policy speaks to the fact that there had been existing trust in that regard. There have been historically executive orders that spoke to prioritizing the procurement of Nigerian products. There have been several types of First Nigeria initiatives that have been announced, that have started. So we need to look at what went wrong, how were we unable to have that Nigeria First being implemented in the last few years, that initiative has been done. So I think looking back and ensuring that anytime you're proposing a policy, you need to walk back to see what has been done before, what went wrong, how do we fill the gaps to ensure that this initiative and this policy is actually done properly and is actually achieved, recognizing the whole of government approach, looking at where the gaps exist, looking at where the owners are, who dropped the ball in the 2017 executive order that spoke to prioritizing made in Nigeria products. Where in the Public Procurement Act did we, review of the Public Procurement Act, did we recognize government spending to prioritize made in Nigeria products? So all of this did exist, but where did we drop the gap? So doing a Nigeria First policy now without walking back to look at those gaps, to me, is what may have challenged the implementation or the perceived announcement of that policy.
What could we have done better?
What would have done better is to come up with looking at what didn't work when the policy was announced. We had an executive order on this, is the first time it's been done. Where was the ball dropped that we did not achieve what we sought to achieve in the first outing of such a policy that spoke to prioritizing procurement, prioritizing the use of made in Nigeria products? So I think these are the things, if we had looked to come up, see those gaps. So in implementing the new policy, the first thing to do would be to plug those gaps and ensure that there's a whole of government approach in that. And also there's a compliance issue, meaning non-complying agencies, MDAs, that do not comply to those directives and those executive orders that spoke to prioritizing made in Nigeria products will now be penalized, will be sanctioned. So I think, to me, those elements need to be done. And yeah, it's not too late to actually do them. So we need to walk back a bit, pull out all those gaps, ensure that there's compliance, ensure that there's sanctioning for non-compliant MDAs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Baker, the same question. One bold policy move of this administration that was done well, and what could have been done better?
All right. Thanks again, Taiwo, for the invitation. I think you could have invited many other people, but you choose to invite the IMF, including myself. So thanks again, and happy birthday. It's difficult to just take one bold policy that the administration has done. I think it will not do justice to what they have really done. I think what they have proposed to Nigerians is a package of policies. And this is exactly what they have done well. It's not just on fiscal policy or the tax reform led by Taiwo. You have what the central bank has done. You have different other ministries that are doing a lot. But in general, if I have to just take one main thing, it will be the fact that we are moving away from a social contract whereby the country was not taxing much and the population was not asking for much. So, and the country was really fueled with subsidies everywhere, exchange rate subsidies and fuel subsidies, etc. Now, what they are trying to do, our understanding at the IMF of what they're trying to do, is really to have a new social contract that Taiwo was talking about. There will be an increase in taxation, better taxation, but then what we see at the IMF is taxation to spend more. And this is where they're going. When you hear what the administration is saying, they're talking about, we want to raise revenue to spend even better. And we are supporting this, and I think this is what they're doing very well, and we hope to see it even further. Now, the question of, could have they done things better? Yes, of course. And something that is still not working well, and we have to be frank about it, is that the macro stabilization is happening right now. Inflation is decelerating, the budget deficit is coming down, FX reserve are up, the Naira is more stable, etc. But those gains are yet to benefit the average Nigerians. This, I mean, if somebody tells you otherwise, they're not telling you the truth. There is immense hardship. You know, the population is really, really struggling. We have data on poverty, on food insecurity. So I believe that the next step, or probably the urgency for the administration, will be to really fast track and accelerate whatever mechanism that they have. Now that they're creating the space for more fiscal activism, it will be very important to ensure very quickly that the gains that we are seeing at the macro level are translated into micro gains so that the average Nigerian can now understand what this policy package was all about.
Thank you very much, Dr. Beke. I told us earlier that he's going to bring tough love to the panel, and he's doing that already, telling us some of the things that we need to do better. All right, over to you, Dr. Aduloju. Same question.
So, so first, Taiwo, Mr. Chairman, like I call him, happy birthday. I'm wearing the gold tie I promised you. Welcome to the golden years. And thank you for being a fantastic representative of the NESG community. People do not know, but Taiwo was our first fiscal policy commissioner at the NESG, or Fiscal Policy Roundtable. That process birthed the most statistically significant study on citizen perception on taxation in Nigeria, which gave us for the first time a very deep set of lenses that allowed for some of the work that we could front load when the reforms started in terms of understanding what to do that the citizens wanted. He also served as chairman of the Debt Management Roundtable for the whole of West Africa. Thank you again for representing Nigeria well. And so as national practice leader for fiscal policy at the NESG, you can imagine that when the president gave this assignment, we just said to ourselves, all of us must jump in, and we are honored and inspired by the leadership you've brought to this very complex reform. Happy birthday, my brother. This is a very bold government. So when you discuss one bold reform, you can point to several bold reforms. Subsidy removal was historically unprecedentedly bold. Removal of historic FX, multiple FX rates with foregone premiums up to 65, 70% was historically bold. So I think the president is a very bold reformer. And I think we need to celebrate that in Mr. President. You can give him a hand if you want, but I think you should. And I think that that's the first thing we noted about Mr. President, his boldness on the issues of balancing the current account. And that has, like Kristen pointed, many things in it. The second thing was that Mr. President was bold in giving the Presidential Committee on Fiscal and Tax Reform this very strange assignment without boundaries. When I saw the terms of reference, I think I went over to Taiwo's office. He was still in PwC. I said, are you sure the president wants to do this? Are you very, very sure that he wants us to go all the way? And he gave me some assurances. I said, well, I said we will see. Because the terms of reference looked almost impossible to execute. So what has gone well? Mr. President has deployed to the fiscal and tax reform an immense amount of political capital. And political capital manifests itself in at least 6 ways. The first is he was in front of it, all the way. Whenever we needed Mr. President to make a clear statement on the reforms, he was there. Number 2 is that it was backed by authorization to the critical institutions to support it. And Dr. Zach, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for just, he was in the room huddling, especially when the political dynamics started to shift in interesting ways. And in fact, when it looked as if the political headwinds would not be in favor of the policy, Mr. President was in front of his reform also. And I think that's important to note. But the third thing about reforms is that you have to authorize a group to do serious work and get out of their way. I think Mr. Oyedele mentioned this, that one of the things the president did not do was to send us any, yellow notes on his interest. We worked for a year and a half plus with zero interference from Mr. President. And I think that's important. So let's give him a hand, because political authorization is one thing to say, do it, something else to authorize it to happen. The fourth was an immense amount of allocation of resources. We had all the institutions, CG, thank you so much. CG's most senior people were in the room, Fiscal Responsibility Commission. I think this is one reform where the chief executives were on board, they were in the room, they were on their beats, and therefore it naturally had the last component maybe to note in terms of what worked well: immense institutional coordination. Now, coordination did not mean we agreed. One of the lessons of this reform is coordination does not mean agreement. Coordination means that we accept we must get the outcomes we want, but there might be disagreements. One of the things I learned from these reforms, and I think it's an important improvement going forward, is that overlaps are not opportunities for conflict. In reform, overlaps are opportunities for collaboration, for partnership, for understanding ourselves better, and for finding a way that works for all of us. And those, I think, are important lessons going forward. In terms of what has not worked well in terms of the bold reform, it will be coordination, 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 coordination. And I think there are many lessons from this reform that we can apply to other reforms across Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think, banking on that, let me come back to Ms. Bala Usman. Because since we're talking about coordination, boldness, the question to you would be, what leadership qualities really make the difference between a great policy idea and a great policy impact? And let me also ask this, dovetailing from what Dr. just mentioned. Can boldness sometimes backfire in policy making? How do you strike the balance?
I think we have an example of that in Nigeria. Currently, Mr. President is very bold and visionary, and his boldness and ability to understand how to implement drive policies, recognizing the boldness and also being strategic. I think that's important. I would also want us to look at an example in the way the tax reform bill, again, the policy that conceptualized that. So the way the chairman, so you have two people, you have Zach and Taiwo, both of them being able to work together to showcase boldness, to showcase being strategic, to showcase collaboration. So the first question that spoke to what leadership qualities would get you a policy and then a policy impact. So boldness, being strategic, understanding collaboration, and they typify that. So you have boldness in what Zach, the chairman of FRS, has been doing. You see strategy in what he's been doing. You see collaboration in what he's been doing. So so the definition of how you can do policy, the leadership traits that are required, policy impact, how to get it. I think what the government has been able to achieve within the tax reform is really an example of how it can be done. Taiwo is providing technical content, able to drive and ensure that the strategies are there, the boldness and conviction and sector collaboration. And of course, you mentioned how will boldness, is it a negative backfire? I think you must be bold to drive reforms and bring policy. So boldness, to me, I'm one of the very bold ones. So I'm an advocate for being bold and being strategic. So the strategic aspect of being bold is the fact that is where you have a synergy that would enable you mitigate the pushback you will get within a bold and visionary idea. So recognizing how to manage it, what to do to streamline and coordinate the strategies needed for you to embark on. So bold ideas and bold policies do backfire, but recognizing what strategies to bring about to enable you address and conclude on those bold policies are important. And as I said, an example of it is what we have in Nigeria from the president, larger bold policies, strategies across the board, with his foot soldiers, bold and visionary, also able to recognize how to collaborate, when to collaborate, and how to ensure that those bold ideas are not lost in translation in trying to ensure that there's stakeholder collaboration. So stakeholder collaboration while also retaining the core of what you want to get done, not losing the essence of your policy reform under the guise of collaborating, under the guise of stakeholder relations, but ensuring that the bold initiative is continued and is delivered within the policy, and ensuring people understand the benefit of that boldness, the benefit of doing what you believe is the right thing to do, even if there may not be the larger understanding within that bold policy position. Thank you.
Okay, let me just stick with you for a few seconds. You've given us example with Mr. Oyedele. With your own experience, what leadership quality, just give me one, do you ensure that you know, that comes through, especially when boldness? I imagine if you go to different agencies, you've got to do this, the president wants this. With your boldness, what one leadership quality comes through for you at that time to be able
to be strategic?
Okay.
Yeah.
Strategic. So that same strategy.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's leave it at that. Dr. Becker, yes. Over to you, Dr. Becker. Looking into the next 5 to 10 years, I want to talk about, innovation. Where do you see the biggest opportunity in our country in terms of transformative policy for the next 10 to 5 years? And if you had to design, one policy blueprint for the future, what would be your first principle?
All right. It's a great question. And it also helps me to kind of, preview a little bit what we will disclose on Monday. And it's because of Taiwo, I can go, off the record and basically share a little bit what will be the IMF positions about the future of Nigeria for the next 5 to 10 years. And this will be published on Monday, June 23rd here in Nigeria. So the greatest opportunities the country has now is that the runway has been cleared, right? Nigeria is ready for takeoff. That is without any doubt. This country is ready to grow. This country has created the oxygen it needed by really removing the key bottlenecks and by allowing the fiscal to be even more transparent, by allowing monetary policy to refocus on the core principle of ensuring that the Naira and inflation are pretty stable and the market is functioning well. So when you have these preconditions set, what are then the opportunities for the country to grow here? Where is growth going to come from? I think it's very important to first start with what the needs are. The needs is that Nigeria needs to grow durably. Okay, so that's the first precondition. Second, the growth has to be very strong. You know, at 3%, 4% is still not strong enough to deal with the type of poverty and food insecurity the country faces. Third, this growth has to be balanced across the country. You know, regional disparities in Nigeria, unfortunately, have risen. It's very important that this growth is inclusive, including geographically. So in the Article 4, what we are calling for is really continuing on the course where we are now. There's an opportunity now with the fiscal reforms that are being done, with monetary policy and FX, and the fact that the Naira is pretty cheap compared to other currency, to really engineer a productive, you know, like a social contract that is productive enough. Let me explain. As I mentioned earlier, Nigeria needs to raise more revenue to spend more. If there is something you have to remember from the IMF position, is to raise revenue and spend on Nigerians. Okay? So the flow of funds is really very simple, and I think Taiwo explained it very well. There are gaps into health, education, infrastructure, agriculture, etc. So any fiscal effort that is being done has to come back very quickly into spending on those productive sectors. To sustain growth durably, the only thing you need is productivity. And you cannot achieve productivity when you face insecurity, when you face other bottlenecks. So a productive social contract where the Nigerians are placed at the center of the growth strategy, where growth is strong, but also growth trickles down and ensure that people have decent job and living wages. This is the type of, you know, policies you need. You need an environment that will attract FDI. The country has received so far enormous amount of FPI, you know, short-term flows. And thanks to the stability that Nigeria is now enjoying, what we hope to see is now this conversion from FPI to foreign direct investment. This will ensure that the country will have the productive capital it needs in order to power growth. I think the second question was about, design one blueprint. Again, I will challenge you on that. The world now, with everything, all the uncertainty that we face, having one blueprint is a big mistake. What you need to have is agility. You need to be agile, but you need to have a direction. But in that road, you need to have a lot of exit. So you can take corners, you can pause at a certain point, but you need agility to make sure that you can recalibrate your policy very, very quickly. Let's say you have, for example, an oil price shock, permanent decline in oil prices. The question will be to Mr. Zach and Mr. Taiwo, given the decline in oil prices, and if it's permanent, is that putting us at risk in terms of achieving the 18% of GDP tax to GDP revenue? What else can we quickly do now to take into account the new reality? So this agility is very important. Again, the objective of 18% is set. You know the direction. But what are you doing in the meantime to quickly recalibrate the strategy so that you don't lose sight of the objective? So in terms of policy blueprint, it's really agility. You need to continue to build the buffers. Unfortunately, we live in a very strange world. And without buffers, if you don't count on yourself, it's becoming very, very difficult to be able to navigate these heightened shocks and compounded shocks. And then you need also to be able to communicate what you do to the population. When I discuss with many Nigerian policymakers, it's something that they have very, very clear in their mind. We are doing a lot of reforms. We have to make sure that we carry the population along, but by ensuring that they also understand what we're doing. In this digital world where misinformation is spread very quickly, you must be very, very strong on communication, and you need consistency. Even if it's repeating the same message all over again, that is what is going to help you make sure that the population understand where you're going. let me stop here.
Thank you very much. Fantastic. So I had driving more revenue, agility, and communication. Thank you. Dr. Adilojo, I'll still pose the same question to you. Looking ahead, what transformative policy, and if you had to design a blueprint, what would that be?
Thanks. I think that looking ahead, Nigeria has to pursue the arc of the possible. Now, the arc of the possible is, I think Kristen got this right, it's growth, but it's a certain type of growth, right? It's growth that has one solve for security, and there are three types of security to solve for. Energy security is crucial because you need to fire industries to produce at costs that are competitive for the African Continental Free Trade Area and for our export orientation advantage. You have food security. We need to solve for that because, of course, that allows us to bring down the cost of food. The second, non-monetary driver of inflation. And, of course, the third is national security itself because, of course, value chains and market systems are impacted by the shocks from security threats. So we need to invest in a scale of security operation response that matches the threats we face in different parts of the country. So that's key. The second is that we are now on an inevitable part of diversification, especially in terms of export diversification, especially non-oil earnings type export. And what that means in real terms is that both export in goods, products, and services must take front and center stage. And I think the Honorable Minister for Industry, Trade, and Investment, I think, has echoed this severally as a key way to go. The third is productivity, because Nigeria per capita is a very unproductive country. The number of us contributing in terms of real productivity growth is very low. So we have to put Nigerians back to work. That requires a clear jobs plan that includes the public and the private sector agreeing that this is what it will take to absorb more people into the job market and determine what sectors will drive that. So labor-intensive, high elasticity job creation is essential for productivity. The fourth is technology. Because of the global competitiveness, it's impossible to discuss Nigeria's competitiveness without digital transformation competitiveness. And we need to see Nigeria achieve at least 80-85% broadband penetration so payment systems and services can reach more Nigerians more quickly. The last is growth that has the human capital indices driving it. So it's important to now put poverty reduction as a clear target for all sectors, job creation as a clear target for all sectors, improving average income and household consumption as a clear target. And some of the initiatives of government already doing so, for instance, the conditional cash transfers improve consumption for the poorest households. But at scale, you can't use social investments to solve scale problems, right? You must put more Nigerians to work more quickly. And that's only going to happen if investments, at Kristen's point, goes to productive sectors, they expand, and those expanded sectors now create more jobs for Nigerians. Now, government cannot do this alone. So one blueprint, one principle for a blueprint going forward is deeper conversations between public and private sector about which sectors must grow and how can we work together to make them grow. So for example, there's a big initiatives in government on food security, but I'm challenging private sector entities that how many of you can cultivate 1 million hectares of something, right? And if 10 of you can at scale do 10 million hectares of anything, that changes the dynamics on food productivity, for example. So we need to ask the private sector and the public sector to come along and look at the sectors for future growth and what we can do together to get going in those regards. That is what will be transformative. So for example, when the Minister of Digital Economy noted that tariffs were going to shift up by 50%, the response of the private sector is, okay, we can do on our balance sheet scaling infrastructure by $3 billion in 2025, $4 billion. Those are the kind of conversations we must have across sectors where we are actively talking about the elements and the imperatives for growth. I think if you have that, so diversification, export orientation, deep productivity in services, manufacturing, technology upgrade, and a real focus on human capital. And by the way, because we leave too many people behind, human capital means we must put more young people to work. Our demographic transition means that Nigeria will be younger for longer. 65% of Nigerians are under the age of 35 today. By 2050, 70% of Nigerians will be under the age of 35. So we are not going to grow older as a country. So if you're thinking of the next few years, what that means is that our minds must shift to scale and speed. Scale, speed, and doing it together will get us there faster. And I think that those will be the elements that work.
Thank you. Please make it louder because we're getting a lot from this panel. Please, I also want to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Chief Wale Adun. Thank you very much. He walked in right away. Thank you very much, sir. My next question is to the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole. Thinking about your experience, your successes, the successes you've achieved, as well as even the challenges you faced, what's one critical lesson that you believe policymakers should not forget? You have to think about that.
Yes, I think perhaps the most important lesson is to have the courage to conclude what you start and to implement what you start. So we've had comments and they're really layering and aligning with each other. Hadiza talked about being strategic. We've talked about coordination and the need to really finish and learn from past experiences. And I say this across both private sector and public sector. So as a country, as a nation, how do we have the courage to deliver to the last mile what we already know? We have good plans, we have some level of implementation, coordination, but that missing ingredient that we individually and collectively should remember is that what we do counts, and we should have the courage to finish what we start.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Now my final question to all of you, and that question will be, in one or two sentences, I want it to be very brief, but very sharp, as we end on a very high note. I would want you, and I will start with the Honorable Minister, I want you to tell us what will define successful policies for the next generation, and your closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts would just be to amplify the digital trade policy of Mr. President. He's digital co-champion for AFCFTA, and what that means and why he's prioritized it is because that is where Nigerian youth are competitive, that is where Nigerian youth are leading, not just Africa, but the world. 50% of unicorns on this continent are of Nigerian extraction. And that policy, that focus, and just looking at where Nigerians will lead the world, it's really going to be in digital trade, in services. And so prioritizing that is a policy that he's led with, he started with, and it will serve us well. Thank you.
Ms. Usman, yes. The question will be, what will define successful policies for the next generation, and your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are on the need for a whole of government approach towards solving the national issues. The need for enhanced coordination, both within government, enhanced coordination, and also coordination with the private sector to ensure that we have a clarity of where we're going and we're all working in the same direction to achieve our objectives of an improved country as a whole. So our national development needs to have clarity on whole of government and a defined direction where all of us are working together. And I believe one of the important policy outcomes for the country is, as Jumoke has mentioned, the need for us to recognize our demography and target initiatives that specifically enhance their livelihood. We have a huge population of young Nigerians, and we need to be very mindful of recognizing those specific initiatives and policies that would move them out of continued poverty, and also recognize that conditional cash transfers, poverty elevation mechanisms do not achieve the larger result of ensuring that a strong economy is built.
Thank you very much. Doctor, same question.
Yeah, before I answer this, when we talk about successful policies, you know, if you just imagine with what is going on in the rest of the world now, the volatility, the shocks, just imagine that this administration hadn't done these reforms. Where would have been the Naira today? Where would have been the deficit today? So just think about this counterfactual. You know, we are going into a period of heightened volatility, sharp uncertainty, geoeconomic fragmentation, climate shocks and everything. Without the policies that were implemented, there were difficult policies and a lot of people do not understand these policies. We discussed this. But without these policies, the country would have been in a very, very tough situation. So this is a sign of success, is being forward-looking. I'm sure when they were implementing the policies, they didn't know that we will have this oil price volatility and then there will be war everywhere, etc. But because they did it, they are now in better position to be more resilient to those type of shocks. So now, what will be durable measure of success? I would say is just going back to the people, right? If Nigerians are not penalized because they are born in a certain region and therefore they don't have the same opportunities than someone born in another region, this is not success. You need to equalize the opportunities within Nigeria or across states so that everyone who wants to work more, who wants to set up a business can have these opportunities. You also need to make sure that basic needs, fundamental needs like food security are really addressed. And that's why I like the, you know, the blueprint that my brother Taiwo said, you know, agricultural productivity is a must. And, you know, further measures, you know, the administration has done a lot on, you know, dry season farming and things like that is very important to continue. So success will be when Nigerians, on average, because not everyone will be happy, you know, there is no country where everyone is happy, but on average, people feel like whatever they want to do, they have the opportunities to do that, and they don't have to go abroad and shine there while they can actually shine in Nigeria. The world has seen Nigeria as a very, very powerful country where reforms can be implemented. This is being recognized. You know, I am at the IMF. I can tell you there are many, many other policymakers in many countries who do not just have the courage of doing what Nigeria is doing. There are countries where to increase fuel price at the pump, you need to wait 3 years and have increment increase by 15%, and they cannot even implement what is being done here. But as I mentioned early on, if these gains do not materialize directly into people's life, it's going to be very difficult for people to understand what the merits of this reform were and if they need to continue to support it. So very important to quickly transform the macro gains into micro gains. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Doctor, same question to you.
So, in conclusion, I think it's important to remember that policy is a human calculation. And because it's a human calculation, you must always answer a set of questions, especially with economics. What is the macro impact of my reforms? And this is important because when the government says it won on macro, it did, right? And we should celebrate it. However, you also have the meso impact. You know, how is the impact of reforms on the structure of industry and its dynamics, right? Because that now determines whether externally those industries are attractive to FDI and investments. Then you have the micro reforms at the level of firm level performance in terms of can our firms that, because Minister Jumoke is going to go out and take Nigerian businesses to compete in the African market. Can our firms compete? How do I make sure that they are competitive? So you need the micro impacts on firm level performance to be very high and promote the resilience of Nigerian institutions and businesses to be able to compete. Then there are nano effects. Can households cope? What is the gap between where they are and the coping effect, and how do we close that gap? And of course, there are also wallet level effects. When the average Nigerian shows up in the market, to what degree is he able to survive? Now, all these impacts don't happen at once. In any true macroeconomic transformation story, the macro comes first. And that's why it's important that Nigerians celebrate the macro. The nano comes last, usually, which is where the pain point is. How do we coordinate to shorten the journey between the macro impact and the nano effect on a man's wallet, whilst cushioning the effect in the transition period, is the number one question that we must answer. And so there are two ways. One, we simultaneously scale job creation and productivity whilst expanding social investments and ensuring that social investments and social protection truly reaches Nigerians and we can demonstrate it, including what the states are doing. Because sometimes the federal is doing stuff and being visible about it, but sometimes the state does not come along to show visibility on their own social protection transformation activities. So again, it's a human calculation that must have macro impact, meso impact, micro impact, and nano impact. And it's only when all these impacts align that the man on the street really starts to clap, but it takes time. So let's tell a story where we don't, demarket ourselves from saying it didn't happen, it did. But also we don't tell ourselves an incomplete story that what we have done is the destination. It's not, we are on a journey so that we can go together and reach the furthest left behind Nigerian. That will make policy a real human calculation, and we all win. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished panelists. Thank you for the depth that has been, shown here. The bold ideas definitely that have come through. The practical wisdom that have been shared today. I had a few things. Increase revenue, but be focused. It's a journey, it's not a destination. We must coalesce everything that we're doing from the macro to the meso, to the micro, to the nano level. Most importantly, we must be agile. The other thing is we are also part of the global world, so we must be quick to adapt. So thank you very much, distinguished panelists. Of course, your insights are more than just a conversation. They've been a call to action. And I'm also glad that majority of our policymakers are here. So everything said here will be taken along. So let's continue to challenge limits, I must say, reimagine possibilities, and that is why Mr. Oyedele brought us all here today, and drive the change that we want to see. That is my slogan every day on my program. The future isn't just ahead of us. The future is now, and it begins right now. Please, a round of applause for all our distinguished panelists. Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, MFR, Ms. Hadiza Bala Usman, the Special Advisor to the President on Policy and Coordination. Please, a round of applause, Dr. Christian Ebeke, IMF Chief in Nigeria, as well as Dr. Taiwo Aduloju, CEO, NESG. Thank you very much. It's been so nice doing this. Thank you. Okay, a picture.
Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for the panel, please.
Thank you very much to all our panelists and to our excellent moderator for that panel session. They say pictures tell 1,000 words. However, videos, they tell the entire story. We would like to, at this point, watch a documentary on our fiscal reform journey. Technical crew?
In the heart of Africa's most populous nation, a bold transformation is unfolding, one that touches every household, every business, and the future of Nigeria's economy. This is the story of a bold journey to fix Nigeria's broken fiscal foundation. For decades, Nigeria's tax system was tangled in outdated laws and the web of overlapping taxes and multiplicity of collecting agencies.
It's always a problem for us to even get a grasp of what the system itself is as a business person. I will tell you that the system we met, which is, of course, we call the tax system in Nigeria now, to us, it's more punitive. It's more like we want to punish you for doing well or trying to put items together called business. And which of course sometimes bothers us. Why would I be doing so much? And the establishment, now the government, would not even appreciate, but rather they will bring all kinds of tax laws and all that. I think we have been about that. In this government that everybody is struggling. I think that's too much, to be honest. But also maybe very often we need to work on it.
And the state tax, all kinds of tax payments. When they came to collect the tax, we paid them, and they give us paper assessment for payments.
From taxes, we're receiving sometimes, don't know where it's coming from. Sometimes they will give us local government bill, they call it test. We pay it. Sometimes we bring a certain bill, we pay it.
Most entrepreneurs ask us is that I don't want to register my business because of taxes. I don't want this tax people to start pursuing me. If I register my business now, will I start paying taxes? Which one should I register so that I don't have to pay taxes? How much tax should I pay?
It hasn't been so good, like what the stakeholders, we the stakeholders will say. We will tell you that there is upward taxation. There is, most people say, the people of the lower Ghana, what they call the informal sector.
Compliance was hard. Trust was low. Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio hovered below 10%, amongst the lowest in the world. Tax morale weakened. 4 in 5 adults would rather evade their taxes, and most taxpayers do not trust the government, according to a 2019 tax perception report by the NIPR. Evasion flourished. Citizens then asked the hard question: what are we getting in return for taxes paid?
Hard work in this country is not that easy. Governments are supposed to have to create some, foundations that will teach the secondary school students how to get how it works. There will not be reason for government to do something for them.
And even if you ask me to pay taxes, where should I pay a tax? Because these people, they are not doing anything with their taxes. This is one of the reasons why people even resist registering a business. You know, there's no willingness in, I don't say anybody who really wants to pay their taxes.
The government is not supporting me anywhere like this. We will pay for television, for radio. We will pay for even to cover our shop from the rain. So I want them to be active in their work. When I really want something, something I really want to do. Okay, I'll benefit from when I'm doing it.
I must say I have to skip them by using a generator. Well, clearing the gutters ourselves. Well, tying the road ourselves. By digging the boreholes ourselves. All we know is that you walk in and say, pay tax.
We are talking about getting more taxes, aggregating it, making it so attractive to people to pay and all that. People will ask you again. The ones I paid last year, how was it being used?
On day one, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made a promise to fix the tax system and build a fairer, stronger economy.
Now, listen to my investors, local and foreign. Our government shall review all the complaints about the possible taxation.
That promise became a plan. The Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee was formed to simplify taxes, raise revenue fairly, and rebuild public trust.
The committee has been established to address the broad physical challenges facing our economy. Its mandate shall be divided into three broad areas. These are: 1. Physical governance. B. Tax reforms. And 3rd, growth facilitation. We should no longer tax investment or production, but focus on returns, incomes, and consumption. This government will tax the fruit, but not the seeds.
The task before us is substantial, yet pivotal. Our fiscal policies could benefit from better crafting, grounded in data and evidence, ensuring coherence and consistency. We need enhanced alignment with the modern economy and better coordination with monetary and other policies. Many of our existing laws are outdated, hence they require comprehensive updates to achieve harmonization and address multiplicity of taxes, remove the burden on the poor and vulnerable, while addressing the concerns of all investors, big and small.
This must not be just another talk issue. The steps that you are going to recommend, that you are going to agree amongst yourself as the best for this nation, are eagerly anticipated, so that they too can be an important input into the regeneration.
Quick wins came shortly after. Some executive orders to provide relief and cushion the impact of subsidy removal and naira flotation, and new withholding tax regulation to ease tax burden and cash flow strain on businesses, both large and small. The Economic Stabilization Bill was introduced to harmonize taxes and set the stage for critical reforms, followed by 4 major tax reform bills. But change is never easy. The tax reform bills were greeted with debates, controversies, heated media activities, and some doses of misinformation. The conversations grew louder and sometimes divisive.
The Council acknowledged that the country is underperforming on all indices as regards yield from our major revenue sources, also our tax to GDP ratio, and so on. So after extensive deliberation, NEC noted the need for sufficient alignment between and amongst the stakeholders for the proposed reforms.
President, I'm willing to talk. That's the government was so that will tell you where it is possible.
President of Nigeria sent off
Yet, through dialogue, constructive engagements, and negotiations, consensus emerged.
The reform created some support for the comprehensive reform of Nigeria's identity tax laws. Government acknowledged the importance of modernizing the tax system to enhance fiscal stability and align with program practices.
The reform bills passed, setting the stage for a prosperous fiscal future for Nigeria.
Those in support of this motion to say aye, don't forget to say nay. There is it. I must commend the effort of the National Assembly to disagree and agree up to this point, because I can assure you this is the last journey on this bill. From now, we are progressing forward. These are 4 bills that will position Nigeria more strategically when it comes to economic growth than any other bill.
The Senate now adopted the Conference Committee report on the tax reform bills as presented and as explained. Those in support of the adoption of the tax reform bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The tax reform bills are hereby adopted.
With the new tax reform laws, a new era begins. But passing laws is just the beginning. The true reform lies in implementation. For businesses, lower costs. For citizens, better services. For Nigeria, a sustainable fiscal future. But this journey is far from complete. More work remains. We must train, digitize, build trust, and complete the remaining reform measures to finish what we've started. This is not just a reform, it is a reset, a transformation to move Nigeria forward and deliver shared prosperity for the people.
A round of applause again. Thank you very much. That was such a very sound piece to watch, documentary piece to watch. And it's really beautiful to see that. I recall so many times when Mr. Taiwo was invited on my business show, and he kept on re-emphasizing why we needed to cut down on the multiplicity of taxes. And to see that he has been given an opportunity, and he's ensuring that all he has said, he was consistent back then, he's consistent now. I can imagine how much of a long and torrid road it has been, but we are seeing the results. Tax to GDP has increased from around the 10% it used to hover around to over 13%. It's something to really be proud of. A round of applause again for him, please. During the panel session, we did hear Christian from the IMF, who is the resident representative, talk about the need to raise more revenue to spend more. And for our spotlight reflection, who is the better person to invite right now, but a leader of pragmatic action and a visionary reformer. Please let's make welcome Dr. Zach Adedeji for his spotlight reflection. Please let's keep it coming until he gets here. Thank you. He's been here with us all day.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of Finance, my boss and my dad, and my lecturer, Dr. and Professor Taiwo. Give me a great pleasure to be here today, because I remember 10 years ago when you were doing your 40 in close landmark. We were there together. Then we were praying that Almighty God will give us opportunity to translate most of those things you put in papers and book into reality. Today, Almighty God answered our prayer, and we are here. I know celebrants roughly going to 25 years ago when I was a student. I was writing my professional examination 1 in ICANN when I was in part 2 in University of Ife, Obafemi Awolowo University. So I came to Lagos to write the exam. And one of our lessons then, WISE, in Maryland. So I thought I was brilliant until when I met him. Because I was, we had to write accounting standard then, not international accounting standard as it were, we have it today. It was a standard of accounting, statement of accounting standard. And we have only 21 SAS then. And then I tried to memorize 10. With the power of Bible and fellowship and and someone strolled to our class and he said that the lecture we will have today is SAS. And he taught us that day from SAS 1 to 21 without opening any books and without missing anything. So then I said, whether he likes it or not, he will be my friend. And, and from that day to today, he has been my lecturer. I appreciate the relationship and the sacrifice, because I remember I got chartered, got to Procter & Gamble. He was in PwC. He became our tax partner. And I was in Oyo. He helped. And when we were about to start this journey, he said he would never work for government. That is not a government staff, he's a professional. But thank God, then my boss used to be the head of our shadow economic team for incoming government. That is 1 year before we even have the ticket. I'm talking of Honorable Minister of Finance. So we used to meet in his house to coordinate us that the next 1 year when we have ticket, what are we going to do? And from that day, after meeting Honorable Minister at home, we have some of us, I will leave and go to Landmark to go and see the partner. That's what if you are doing this thing, trying to sound him out. But thank God, when Mr. President appointed him, without even considering the future and the past, he sacrificed all he has and said that the best thing to do this job is to resign. I said, that he does not want conflict of interest, and this is what we all dreamt of, and there is no bigger sacrifice. And I know not only Nigerian, Mr. President really appreciates your sacrifice, and you can see from what you've seen that that is one of the reasons he gave you all the free hand with your member to make sure you give, you've done the best. So congratulations, happy birthday, and as you've said, that the work has just started. Thank God for the leadership of Honorable Minister and Coordinating Minister of Economy, for the kind of guidance he has been given. You know, when the bill, by God's grace, in a couple of weeks now, will be assented to by Mr. President, then implementation starts. And if you listen to Mr. President's speech on the day of inauguration, he said this is not a committee that will do. You propose and you implement. And that is what I'm saying, that congratulations for the first half that has been done. And I'm welcoming you to the real work. And I know the one you've just handed now was timed. I'm not sure the other one will be timed. God Almighty will strengthen you. And when we are doing your 60, by God's grace, it will be the real gain that we'll have. So on this note, on behalf of Federal Land Revenue Service, we congratulate you, happy birthday, and I will leave the rest for my boss when he's here. Thank you.
Please, let's put our hands together for him. Thank you very much. Doing a great job. Apart from those who describe tax collectors in the Bible as people with vices, I did a little research. I know that one of the most efficient tax collectors in the Bible is also named Zach. When you turn 50, they say, welcome to the age of wonder. And I asked somebody how. He said, that is where you wonder where you parked your car. You wonder where the TV remote is. And sometimes you even wonder where your pair of glasses are. Most of the time, they are just on your head and you are looking for them. So welcome to the age of wonders. May I especially welcome the President of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria, Professor Uche Uwaleke. Please put your hands together for him. May I also specially appreciate the Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Mr. Simon Kato, FCTI. Please put your hands together for him. Next on our list for those who will do a goodwill message is one who during his time rebranded the National Assembly as a policy engine. He built bipartisan bridges offering stability in a volatile political market. He championed budget reforms and transparency. He also helped to work on Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Bill, Budget Process Bill, and passed several bills focused on economic growth and competition, including Data Protection Bill and Public Interest Disclosure Bill. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, he was described as Politician of the Year by 5 newspapers. He also got a Zik Prize for Leadership. He's a man who drafted legislation like a legal prospectus. He managed crises with a Harvard-trained calm, one who has always kept his moral balance sheet in the black. He passed in one legislative session 130 bills in a single legislative session. He is a legislative asset and compounding value. One-time special assistant to the Minister of State for Transport. In 2007, he became a member of the House of Representatives. And in 2015, he was specially elevated as the 13th Speaker of the House of Representatives. May I invite Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, CFR. Please put your hands together for him. Can we clap for him? I hear that he was here a bit ago and he had to step out. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for him. May I, at this point, invite my co-MC to do us the honors of inviting the others who will be doing the goodwill messages. Please put your hands together for Irene. There are very few ladies who can match beauty and brain. She's one of them. Please clap for her.
Would like to warmly welcome Dr. Ike Neliako, FNIPR, the President, Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, for his spotlight reflection. Please a round of applause for him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the celebrant, Honorable Minister. I had the misfortune of meeting Taiwo Oyedele about 2 months ago, and he thoroughly confused me and convinced me that this is the way to go. How did it start? The Minister of Information called me one afternoon. He was abroad, and he said, Mr. President, I need you to convene a platform on the tax reform. And I want to have an open engagement with Nigerians. And I want the NIPR to handle this. So we mounted a citizen engagement platform in Kaduna and beamed it live on 4 national television stations and brought in people from all the key northern states to come and engage. And the issue was very simple. Not that they didn't like the policy, but they felt that they were not engaged. They were not carried along. And then some of them misunderstood completely what the issue was. So we had that program. And after that, we received about 930 comments. Those that were thanking the NIPR for taking this matter and making it a national conversation. After that, we had the Nigeria Spokesperson Summit, where we brought in all the spokespersons in Nigeria, and we invited Taiwo to come and share this same issue. That was on the 16th of April, and he did so well. I remember that one of our delegates from Kano took him on a particular issue about Islamic law and taxation on inheritance. And he took it on and he explained it so very well. We were not done with him. We brought him to Uyo on the 20th of May when we had our Nigeria Public Relations Week. About 1,300 people. These are core practitioners, brand managers, cutting across different parts of this country. And he did so well. There are three things I would like to leave us with. The man who carries the message is as important as the message. Taiwo is a good messenger. He has a mien about him. He has a way of carrying difficult things and making it appear so simple. That's why I said he confused some people. Because when you look at his face, you will mistake him to be a jambite. Until he begins to bring out what is in him, then you know that he's a man who has gone through school. Secondly, unknown to us, a new dispensation is coming. When we were growing up, many of us will recall, when you hear about the tax man, I learned it from my parents. When you hear about the tax man and you are still standing, you are doing so at your own risk. So we grew up seeing the man that represents taxation as a wicked, mean man. But now, in a new dispensation, we are seeing a taxman that smiles, a taxman who is humble, a taxman who carries the face of humanity. And that is what Taiwo represents. So I am glad that the Minister of Finance is here. Use this man to implement this new orientation. And I'm glad. This is the man that should be the tax man. But he has been protected because he has collected all his taxes in the Bible. And now he has appointed somebody else to do it on his behalf here. I want to congratulate you. At 50, you have done so well. We look forward to seeing you at 100. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the President of the NIPR. He also has changed the institute, making more people to become members and opening the doors that we thought was only for private people. Please put your hands together for him. May I especially welcome the Chairman, Commissioners of Finance Forum, Honorable Commissioner of Finance for Ekiti State, Mr. Akin Oyedele. You're welcome. Please put your hands together for him. I just seen a medical doctor at the back. He had given me 2 previous assignments. One was to help him to get a student to be admitted to study medicine at the University of Abuja. And when the boy came into my office, I asked him, I said, what's your A-levels like? He said, sir, I have 2 credits. That's okay. Do you have anything in biology, chemistry, physics? Maybe we'll start with prelim. He said, no. He said, I have 2 credits. I have 1 in Yoruba, and I have 1 in a Greek. I said, okay, you are going to be a doctor, but you will be another kind of doctor. You are going to be a native doctor. You can use the Yoruba for incantation, then use the Greek to identify herbs in the bush. You need to go back home. There's no admission for you here. Well, we have one man that I have been told to invite. He is, of course, many things. Beyond spreadsheet and stock charts, he invests in people. He champions youth empowerment through sports and education and serves as a global trustee of the Duke of Edinburgh International Award. With him in a driver's seat, Nigeria's economic engine is being refueled for resilience. He's not just managing money, he is crafting a new financial blueprint for the national prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, now he has rolled out bold fiscal policies aimed at bolstering non-oil revenues. He has overseen macro stability reforms, aligning fiscal and monetary tools to tame inflation. He is spearheading public sector efficiency, making sure every naira counts. He is also driving force behind revamping the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, turning it into a strategic wealth management engine for national assets. May I therefore invite for his message to us, Nigeria's Minister of Finance is at the helm of economy, balancing books, plugging leaks, and reposition Nigeria. His Excellency Mr. Adebayo Oluwale Edun. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you. Please have your seats. Thank you very much and good afternoon. I know my colleague, the Honourable Minister, has gone, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, as well as the Special Advisor on Policy Coordination, the Chairman, FIRS, the man who carried friendship to the ultimate level. He recognized somebody who had all the qualities and was as smart as him. I won't say smarter, was as smart as him. And they carried that friendship into service to Nigeria. Mr. Zach Adedeji. I think Christian Ebeke, the country director of IMF, may still be here. Clearly, the MD, NIPR, is here. And I may say, Chief J.K. Nayeju, the former Accountant General of the Federation, who served very meritoriously all those years ago, wrote a brilliant book, and we're glad you are here with us today. Thank you for coming, sir. The MD NESG, thanks for not just your insightful comments, but for your partnership with government, which has been of tremendous benefit in bringing private sector perspective to the planning and indeed the implementation of policy. Of course, the celebrants, Mr. and Mrs., not just Mr. and Mrs. Taiwo, Oyedele, congratulations. You've reached a golden age. And it's also a golden moment. Since August 2023, you've been carrying this baby. And it was, I think, yesterday that it was finally delivered to Mr. President by the National Assembly for him to sign off on the 4 tax reform bills. Job well done. Congratulations. And you know, we heard in the comments earlier that it's not just about being able to put together a good program, a good plan. It is about implementation, as Doctor said. It is about perseverance. And I'm glad that someone who knows the backstory, that the chairman, FIRS, did mention the sacrifice. Public office, particularly at the highest levels, is an honor. It's a privilege, a very rare privilege. And the least that it demands is sacrifice. You have shown that in an extraordinary way, because where you saw that there may be some conflict of interest, where you saw that there may be some murmurings that distract from an already difficult situation, you chose the nation before your own private interests. That is so exemplary, so worthy of emulation. So you've done it, and like as we've heard, the reward for hard work is more hard work. So that's what we're expecting from you. That's what we know we'll get from you. And it is no mean feat what you have done. Clearly, in conjunction with the chairman who backed you all the way, and indeed His Excellency Mr. President, who, as one would expect, knew the value of those 4 tax reform bills, and so kept going through thick and thin, through turbulence and through wind. He just kept going, supporting you, and you, as the as our PR man said so eloquently, you had the grace, the gift of being able to take a complex subject and time after time, tirelessly break it down and simplify it for all types of audiences, the high, the low, the knowledgeable, the less knowledgeable. And that's why we have today success in terms of a proposal, 4 proposed bills that are now ready for Mr. President to sign into law. And what will they give? They will give greater fairness. They will give clarity. They will give ease of administration, best practice around the world. And ultimately, and not least of all, they will give more revenue for government so that the legitimate demands of our people can be met in social services, health, education, basic infrastructure. But let me just leave us with this, that this is a landmark occasion for you. We congratulate you on it. But it's also a landmark, and it's just a coincidence, it's a landmark time for the country. There is still hard work to be done in efficiently implementing the bills that have been passed. But they promise to change the fiscal landscape. They promise to virtually double the tax to GDP ratio, which is ridiculously low. And the video, it showed that when you started off, you went out and you saw and heard from people that they didn't feel that they were in any way obliged to pay tax. You have worked tirelessly to help change people's perspective on that, and willingness to pay is an important aspect. Policing is also about voluntary compliance, in this case, in terms of the tax laws. So I think you've moved into a new age, a golden age, and by God's grace, so has the country taken a giant step to achieve Mr. President's ultimate ambition, goal, objective, and that is to move millions of Nigerians out of poverty in the nearest future by achieving rapid, sustained, and inclusive growth, focusing on agriculture, infrastructure, including digital infrastructure, which will speak to the youth demographic we have, and of course, access to finance. We're all waiting for lunch, so we don't want any more dry economic analysis. But let us remember that this is a joyous occasion for Mr. and Mrs. Taiwo Oyedele. It's a landmark, it's an achievement. Their lives have been full of success and achievement, and we pray that you have many more years of success, achievement, happiness, and service to your fatherland. Thank you.
Please, can we clap properly for the Honorable Minister?
Thank you very much once again, the Honorable Minister of Finance, for your contribution to the nation's economy. And at this point, we would like to watch a documentary. It's a birthday project, really, and an endowment fund for Abolarin College. But we'd watch the documentary first, and then we'll talk more about it, just for context. Technical crew, thank you.
Let's appreciate the technical crew. They just came in from South Africa.
Yes, there we are.
Of Oyedele, a rural town locked away in Osun State. Something extraordinary is happening. Not gold, not oil, but something far more valuable. Hope. Town, the school is changing lives, not just educating, but transforming destinies. This is Abolarin College, founded by His Royal Majesty Oba Adedokun Abolarin, the Orokun of Oyedele, not with riches, but with vision and love. At Abolarin College, everything is free. Every single thing. Uniforms, books, accommodation, feeding, healthcare, laptops. These students come from the forgotten corners of Nigeria. Children of farmers, petty traders, widows. Many of them will never have seen the inside of a classroom.
Sunana Musa Habala Bulus. Ina Bornomi, kuma ina makaranta a Abolarin College. Ina aji na shida.
I am here to oversee the success. Since I graduated in class, back at Abolarin College into Akwa Ibom State.
Orúkọ mi ni Mákindé Mamu, mo wá láti ìlú Ifẹ̀. Mo wà ní ìyàrá ìkàwé kejìlá ní Abolarin College.
They sit in science labs. They learn robotics. They write essays. They paint. They art and stain. They cut hair. They sew clothes. Because at Abolarin College, poverty ends where purpose begins.
The school has impacted a lot to me, especially in the area of public speaking, critical thinking, problem solving. As Pele said, success is no accident, it is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing, or learning to do.
Abolarin taught me to interact with people and to stop being like a cage bird, because it says interaction makes you to meet greater people in life and makes people to interact with you so as to know the ways they can be of help to you. I intend to be a medical doctor, a surgeon in particular, a neurosurgeon, because I just love to help people and I hate seeing people waste away due to maybe inefficient medical personnel to help or even lack of finance.
The teachers, dedicated, passionate, and selfless. And one of them is the king himself. Yes, the monarch. Kabiyesi teaches in the classroom, not as royalty, but as a father to every child. He knows each student by name. He listens to their stories. He wipes their tears. He dreams with them. He talks to them every day.
Majority of them are talking around here. Initial wearing part, belong Moyon or I Lumino, part of Ekiti, part of Kwara. And now appreciating the enormity of quality education. That with good education, you can get a lot of things done. And consciously, we are preparing these young ones to take over from us and do better than what people perceive that we are doing or we have done. This school not just prepares them for exams, it prepares them for life. With vocational training, leadership classes, and moral values rooted in culture and character. And what happens after graduation? The college follows them up to university till they graduate. Today, Abdullahi College alumni are shining across Nigeria at OAU Ilefe, at Federal University Oyedele, at Uni Osun, at Adeleke University, and beyond.
I got admitted to Abdullahi College as a pioneer student of the school, and I graduated from Abdullahi College in the year 2020. Presently, I'm a student of Information Science and Media Studies at the Federal University, Oyedele. Abdullahi College is a school for the indigents. Thank you so much, Kabesi. If you are watching this, thank you so much for giving hope to the hopeless.
I got admission into Federal University of Oyedele in the year 2021. I'm studying Theatre Media Arts and I'm in 400 level. Abdullahi College is a school that doesn't leave you after secondary school, still help you throughout your tertiary institution.
Ẹ̀yin lọ máa di yóò kókó ọ̀rọ̀ bóti jẹ́lẹ́sẹ̀ ẹ̀gẹ́dú adé. Ẹ̀yin lọ máa jí mọ́bìnrin ọ̀fẹ́ ọmọ òjò àmọ̀tà. Ọmọ òjò ọdún kìlọ̀ lásán. Ọmọ oníjọ wọn bá ń dásù. Nílé ìlàjò nílé ọ̀rùn. Ọmọ àfẹ́rọ̀ mi lọ́lọ́ iṣu. Ọmọ lọ́dún ò gbọ́dọ̀ gbé ọmọ ní.
I'm currently a student of university studying anatomy level. I got admitted to Abdullahi College September 19, 2016. Throughout the time I was in the school, it was a fun experience. I learned a lot and got prepared for the future.
I don't see myself being a graduate today. I don't see myself that I'm going to go to a university that even at that level, and the university for this school. But it is through this school I get admission.
Winning awards, making headlines, and becoming leaders. This school has redefined Okelauro, once a quiet town of farmers.
My first set of students, if not that KBC brought this school with time intervention, I don't know what the fate of these kids would have been. Some of them would have been mothers, would have been single parents by now. Some of them already have lost hope. Thank God for intervention, and the KBC saw this coming and put it together. We are proud that these kids have a future.
Ọmọ mi ń jẹ́ Adéoyè Jùlọ Joseph, ó wà ní SS1. A mọ̀ pé ó lè lọ síbẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n pẹ̀lú omi ọ̀fẹ́ kábíyèsí Adédọ̀tun, Babaláni Adédọ̀tun, ó wà níbẹ̀, ó dẹ̀ ní wọ́n dẹ̀ ṣe kí ni wọ́n tẹ́kẹ̀ rẹ̀ dáadáa. Ó kábíyèsí gbìyànjú lórí rẹ̀, Ọlọ́run máa ràn wọ́n lọ́wọ́. Ó rọ̀ wá lọ́rùn gan-an torí pé wọ́n gbowó lọ́wọ́ wa, wọ́n gbé ní ti lọ́wọ́ wa, ẹni wọ́n ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ fún wa.
All coming to see the miracle of free world-class education in a rural setting. The dream continues. But dreams like these need fuel. For the last 10 years, it's been funded by KPSC and donation from people who share in this vision. One of them is Mr. Taiwo, Oyedele.
So my team, very young people, most of them that graduates from across many states. While they were going around to look for places where we could help, they came out with these very fascinating names. Like we found a school in a village that was world class. So when they showed me some of the pictures, I was so inspired and impressed. I said, I have to go there myself. So we went there with my team, and I was extremely impressed. He decided to do world class. As at that time, around 8 years ago, every of those kids had a computer. I thought about what project should I promote for my birthday, my 50th birthday, and I didn't have to think twice before this just came to me like, why don't I use the opportunity to one, project what the KBC is doing and hopefully inspire other people. So to everyone who is watching us, we're trying to raise about 1 billion naira endowment fund for the school to be able to provide regular cash flow to meet their basic needs.
For every child still waiting, for every dream still buried by poverty, this is not just a school. It is a revolution. Be a part of it. Abdullahi College, a king's gift, a nation's future.
I think that applause is a little low.
This is a large part of why we are here today. An educated and skilled generation is an empowered generation. We talk about a safer Nigeria, a better Nigeria. These are some of the things and contributions that we make as individuals, as organizations, as institutions that would contribute, because little drops of water do make a mighty ocean.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago we donated school books to a village school. The next year we went there with more books and we discovered that the older books had not been touched. So we asked the school teacher, I said, what happened to the books? Say if we give the books to the children, they will tear it. And that's why they didn't allow them read the books. You know, I was really worried. In one of the classes, the teachers told me to teach English. And I said, okay. I was not in the mood, so I just told them, I said, just assume that you are in a war situation. And from your war experience, just write for me a short story. I noticed every student was writing except one boy. So I walked up to him, I said, boy, I told you to assume that you are in a war situation, so that from your war experience, you will write me an English short story. The boy was very intelligent. He looked me straight in the eye and said, sir, honestly, I died as soon as the war started. So there's no story for you today.
Unfortunately, Kabiesi would have loved to be here today with us. However, he experienced the loss of his wife, and she would be buried in a couple of days. And so he wasn't able to join us. Sincere apologies from him and the team.
Yeah, we pray that her soul will rest in peace.
Amen.
Amen. Today we are about to raise small money, just 1 billion naira.
Absolutely.
To be able to raise that, one person in this hall can write us a check of 1 billion.
We're looking at him.
Or 2 people can write us checks of 500 million each. Or 10 people of 100 million each. Or 100 people of 10 million each. Or 1,000 people will give us 1 million each. I don't want to go down to 10 people giving us 100. Yeah, let's just 10,000 people giving us 100,000, or 1 million people giving us 1,000. I think that's easy to achieve. If everyone here has like 100 people who they are supporting, who are your followers, and you tell them to give you 1,000 each, you will get that money. But I believe that in this hall, I don't want to look at the minister's table because I don't know. I know that something can happen, and I know that, with due respect, sir, I'm greeting you, sir. It's been a long time I came to your office. But we know that this project is worth contributing. Even if he writes us a check of 1 billion, I know that there are people here who will also want to be part of it. So if you look at your program, we have a form like this. Some people have used it to write notes. We give you diaries so that you can take lecture notes. Some people use this paper to take the notes. If you have used your own otherwise, please just ask for it. Our ushers will give you another one. Make some commitment to this. This is the best birthday gift you are going to give to this man, because this is how he chose to celebrate his birthday, to make sure children are educated and the future is secure. That's the only way you can secure the future of a nation, to make sure children get quality education. If you listen to the grammar in those children are speaking, I was trying to fault them, but there was no error. That means that school is doing well. Please clap for them again.
There's also a QR code for those of you who may just want to scan and make your commitments and payments. Please do so. It's okay. It's on display on the LED screen.
It's also on the form.
Yes,
it's also on the form.
as well.
So if you have not tampered with the form, you can, that part of the form, you can just scan it and fill it online and donate immediately. If you want me to announce it, be sure that we announce it. I think all donations here are tax-free. I don't know what had the...
I was very impressed by the quality of grammatical expression from the students that have passed through that school. It does show that we are not just doing the barest minimum. Excellence at its peak, which I think it's something that we must really take note of. And I also loved that they are not just being taught, but they are also empowered with skill sets. I saw some of them with machines, tablets, which I think is very important. I remember one of the interviews I had with Dr. Innocent Chukuma, and he mentioned how he had, there's the amount of money he had to pay as losses in his business because of the initial education that he wished he had garnered. So even if he was in business, he required a level of education. So I see this as a very balanced equation. They are learning in school, the four walls of the education system, and they also are being empowered with skill sets. Please, let's make our contributions. You can also send this to your colleagues and your contacts. Thank you.
I see Nancy has already done her donation. Thank you very much, Nancy. While we are doing the donations, we'll do two things very quickly because we want to finish within time. We will just cut the cake, we'll take a few pictures, and then the saxophonist will play so that we'll allow the Honorable Minister go back to his office.
Official duties.
So those in charge of the cake, can we move the cake, or are we cutting it there? This cake has to move, please. Let's bring those who have skills in moving cake. Can we move the cake, please? Thank you.
Can we get someone to help move the cake? If it's not being moved, then the screen will have to be turned off so it doesn't impact on the quality of the camera, of the pictures.
I think I want us to celebrate Madam. Please put your hands together especially for her. Mommy, we appreciate you for the many years of support, providing him tea when he's writing his papers.
Can you please turn off the screen at the back so it doesn't impact on the quality of the pictures? Or if you change the background, that could also work.
We were supposed to count 50, but I've been told that he's not 50 years old actually. He's 20 years today with 30 years experience. So are we ready? Others, you can support him. Madam, put your hand first. The others can stretch their hands. This is support. Can we all see them from wherever we are? Yes, if you can't see them, we'll sell the CD to you later. We can count. 1. If I call any number, you join me. We want to count 50. 1, 2, 10, 20, 30, 40, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50.
Oyedele YouTube channel. Please feel free to sing along. Happy birthday. Please, can we all rise?
Can we rise as we take the birthday song? Thank you very much. Let's appreciate the Honorable Minister. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Our saxophonist, you will now come up. Let me specially greet the FIRS Oga. That's my direct boss. From here, I'm following him to office to resume. Please clap for my Oga, the FIRS boss.
everybody. Please, this is just to announce that lunchtime, so you can actually go and have your lunch. Please don't go. There is lunch for you. Thank you very much.